What's going on, guys? Dalton here. Just wanted to touch base with you before we get into this episode. What you're about to hear is a podcast recording that me and Will were on. We were on the TheraED PT Podcast with Caleb Norman. He sat down and just asked us some questions about being on social media, about physiotherapy, about being new grads, continuing education courses, all kinds of cool things. So we thought we'd share it with you if you haven't heard it already. It's cool to hear us on the other side of the mic. We get to talk a little bit more about our mission, our vision, and our values. And it gives you guys a little bit of a different look at us rather than asking people questions. One more thing before we get into this episode, guys. If you've listened to our last previous podcast, you know we've partnered up with 24 Hours of Heroes to help them raise money for their amazing event. So, guys, please, if you get any value from any of our episodes or you've wanted to support us in any way, this is how you do it. Click the fundraiser page in the show notes, head to our Instagram, click the fundraiser link in our bio on Instagram. It's also on Facebook. You can search it. Guys, we want to raise some money for this event. It's a great cause, and we're looking forward to help support them, and we're asking for your help. So, guys, one last call to action. Please help us out. If you can donate any amount, that would be great.
Welcome to the TheraED PT Podcast. Each episode, we will interview the most inspiring and knowledgeable guests in physical therapy and career development. We will feature the most interesting and educational material to further your career as a professional. And now here is your host, Dr. Caleb Norman.
All right, welcome back. This is the TheraED PT Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Norman, physical therapist and creator of the TheraED mobile app. I'm feeling pretty good today. I feel like I'm getting lucky. I got the price of 2 PTs for one podcast today. So we have Will and Dalton, the movement PTs, on today. So I just want to thank you guys for coming on. I know it's an early Saturday morning, and you could be doing a lot of other things right now, working out, making some money, or anything. So I appreciate y'all coming on and taking some time.
Yeah, man, no problem. I don't know, 2 PTs. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, man. Right. Too many heads in one podcast.
That could be good. It could be dangerous.
I was gonna say though, early morning, for us, it's like just another excuse to get the coffee rolling, right?
Man. Coffee's brewed. We're good to go. This is good.
Awesome. So I saw on one of your like little bios, it said you're just 2 guys that have a passion for movement and a passion for coffee. So kind of tell me about what are y'all doing? Where are y'all working at? What kind of settings y'all are doing? Just kind of give me a little background on each one of y'all.
Go ahead, Will.
All right. For me, definitely big coffee consumer, right? So that's legit right there. But so that's first and foremost. But I work at an orthopedic private practice clinic as a physiotherapist, kind of split between 2 different places, seeing all kinds of different sorts of things, split between motor vehicle accident, workplace injuries, and then just, whoever else wants to come in off the street. Mm-hmm. So it's been a real ride, been practicing for about a year, learning things every day.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm very similar to Will, obviously on the coffee and in terms of clinic, we both treat in like a similar environment. I also work in an outpatient orthopedic clinic, where I see, again, a variety. I see some MVA, workplace injury, and private. I would say my caseload is pretty balanced, which is nice. You'll see wide range of ages too. I'll see some younger people that are more athletic population. I'll see some older individuals who just want to, be more mobile or maybe dealing with some arthritis or something along those lines. I'm also like a strength coach at a gym. I do that a couple of days a week, where I'll coach classes in private training, which is fun. It keeps it fresh for me, getting in 2 different environments. and to continue to learn in both spaces, with obviously the hopes of maybe at some point combining them together. But right now, just kind of working away and trying to learn. It's crazy. It's been a year, probably within a couple of days, that me and Will just started working. So it's pretty insane.
Okay, so almost an anniversary. Did y'all celebrate some kind of way?
Yeah, not yet. We should though.
Awesome. So y'all kind of touched on the coffee. So you have a podcast, PT Coffee Cast. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I mean, I guess I can assume how it kind of came about, but kind of about how that started.
Yeah, so me and Will, when we were in our second year of physio school, we decided to start an Instagram page first. So the Movement PTs, we put out just like exercise content, and then we kind of developed from there. And then the podcast stemmed off of that. Me and Will would honestly sit down often, drink coffee, and just kind of talk about physio, good, bad, all the in between. And we're like, hey, why don't we just like start a podcast? We both really liked podcasts, so we're like, let's start one and just use it as an excuse to talk to some pretty cool people if they wanted to talk to us. Mm-hmm. The main mission, I think, of the podcast was to try and take like what was going on in the profession at the time, like the actual profession and what we were learning in school, and kind of trying to bridge the gap. So we did that by like talking to other physiotherapists or other people in the healthcare space that had that experience. And now that we're kind of out in that world, we're just kind of continuing to try to bring on some pretty interesting people, and dive into maybe more of like different backgrounds of healthcare.
It's funny too, because like the coffee thing just kind of came natural, right? Because like we sat around and drank coffee and talked, and I feel like for us, like we wanted whatever we did to just be kind of like conversational. You know, like pretty laid back, like we're not dead serious all the time. And coffee is one of those things, like you go and you meet people and you drink coffee. So it's kind of perfect for just sort of like bringing on some guests where, you know, it made sense for us to do it over a cup of coffee. So it's kind of funny how it worked out, but we literally used to send each other exercise videos, and then we'd just be like trying the exercises and stuff. And then, we would just kind of like hash it out.
The podcast definitely seems pretty laid back. I was listening to one of your previous episodes. I can't remember. It was a lady, and she was just like, I give 0 F's about this and that. And I was just like, that's what I'm thinking about. I want to be in this conversation.
That sounds like Ellie Sommer.
I was just gonna say, for sure. She's a beast. She's awesome. That was one of my favorite episodes that we got to record to this day. She's great.
I was like, and like a couple of the myths that she was kind of talking about, I was like, I could see a female kind of not liking those, and you know, it was a good one. She was pretty good.
Yeah.
Now I see like you have, is it like an espresso cast and like a regular? So tell me the difference between the two.
Yeah, so when we originally started, we were just doing interview shows like once a week, and then we, for a short period of time, dabbled in like these espresso casts where it would be like either me or Will would kind of hop on, like one of us, and we do like a shorter podcast that we talked about maybe like something that came up during like our week at the clinic, or some topic that's been maybe going around social media at the time. There seems to be like waves of like topics that get brought up. So we'll maybe comment on those, or just a personal experience or something that we're dealing with or feeling, to kind of just put it out there. And it's more, I think the idea is to just have people realize that like we're all kind of trying to figure this out together, and for us it's kind of helpful sometimes to talk about it, and then if we get feedback from other people on the episodes, it's cool because we can kind of start a dialogue. So that's kind of the difference between our espresso cast and then let's say the actual PT Coffee Cast like interview episode, where we'll sit down like this and do an interview episode with like other people in the profession.
Right. So speaking of like feedback and stuff, I mean, y'all have a bunch of episodes out so far. So have you gotten feedback or had a guest on that kind of changed your mind on any particular topic that you think of off the top of your head?
That's a good question. Will, you got something? I see you thinking over there. You got that thinking face on.
I always look like I'm thinking, Dalton.
That's a good
I don't know
thing.
if yeah, we've definitely gotten some feedback from people. I would say a lot of our feedback is from students or people that are maybe thinking about going into PT, who resonate with the fact that we're new grads and that we started this when we were students, and that we realize we don't have it all figured out. But we're trying to like implement these new models of healthcare, like the biopsychosocial model and stuff, which I think people are starting to get on board with, but aren't really sure how to sort of navigate the healthcare landscape that way. As far as like changing our minds, like definitely, like we're pretty open. We're naturally skeptical and curious, but like, I can't think of like one specific example just off the top of my head, but I would say a lot of our podcasts just get us thinking, they get us like, to view maybe our interactions through a different lens, and then we reflect on it, so like the podcast is literally us reflecting on things that we're thinking about, like things such as like, how do we utilize passive modalities and passive treatments in our care responsibly? How do we use it to actually benefit us? Because I would say we're biased against those things. So there's lots of that sort of thing on the podcast with us reflecting and trying to problem solve our way to being better, Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think off the top of my head, like 1 or 2 episodes that completely shifted, like, but people, there's a couple of people that I think had a big influence on Will and I, that we eventually had on the podcast, which is cool. So like one course that we took that was like really good was Greg Lehman's course, Reconciling Biomechanics with Pain Science. And then he really, like, we did that when we were in our second year of physio school, and it really shifted our mind on pain and biomechanics and where it fits and where it doesn't fit. And his content has been something that we always like read early on that really shifted our mind. And then we had him on for an episode, so that was cool. Someone like Adam Meekins too, like he's obviously a polarized person in the physio space, but he's puts out really good content that helped us a lot. And then we had the opportunity to have him on. Some people like Nick Hannah Moves, like we had him on our podcast. He's been like a big advocate for communication and connection in the space of physio. So there's a lot of people that have like we've consumed outside of the podcast that we brought on that had helped shape our minds. So that's pretty cool.
Okay, cool. Now, guys, don't kill me. Now, I got a confession. So, even though it's the PT Coffee Cast, can you believe I'm 31? I have never had a cup of coffee in my life.
Whoa, that's wild. That's a new one, man.
I wouldn't even know where to start. I wouldn't even know how to order a cup of coffee.
Oh man,
so, I'm sticking with orange juice.
That's amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
So like all my friends, like even PT school, they're like, "What are you doing? How you staying up?" I was like, "I sit my phone for 20 minutes. I just take a nap."
That's probably better, man. Honestly,
dude,
that's crazy. Like you just never thought about trying it.
My parents didn't drink coffee, so I didn't like grow up with it in the house. Yeah, my grandmothers did, but I don't know. By the time I got to their house, I was just kind of like, "Oh, I'm fine." So
you gotta ride it out, man. Don't cave.
My friends are like, "You must be like an alien or something, because that's not normal."
Dude, that's like that's so, because I've heard people who don't like it, but I don't think I've ever heard of anybody who has never tried it.
I might love it. Who knows? I don't know.
I think at first you'd be thrown off because it's like it's bitter, So okay. I feel like it's one of those. Well, I don't know. Do you drink beer?
I do drink beer.
Do you drink like IPAs?
So I have a friend that's a bartender, and he basically trying to get me, like, I guess, move my palate. So I've starting to like some IPAs. At first,
Right.
I was like, "Oh no, it's just I can't do this." But
Yeah.
I have found a few now that I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is not bad. It's not bad."
Yeah,
'Cause I
gradual
kinda like-
exposure to hops. Gradual exposure to hops.
Yeah.
I would say coffee's kind of similar, you know, like that
Mhm.
bitterness. So it's something, if you haven't had it before, it'd probably be like, you probably want to start with some milk or something, you know, some cream.
Yeah. Shameless plug. Like, I mean, where you should start is ordering a bag of the original blend and then using it and
Yeah,
having some milk in it. And
Boom.
that would probably be the best way for you to start
that'd be the best way.
the coffee, in my opinion.
We might need to do that. We might have to get me hooked up or something. All right. So I looked on your Instagram, and like you were mentioning earlier, y'all have some content that y'all post about different exercises and things like that. And it looks like y'all still keeping up with that. So tell me about how y'all creating that content. Is it like frequently asked questions that y'all come up with and say, hey, let's make a video, or is it just kind of personally, how are you developing the content and thinking about, putting that out?
Yeah, I mean, I think originally we were putting out, like when we first started our page, we made a goal, like let's put out one piece of content every day for a year. So that's kind of how we started. So me and Will like planned a lot of stuff out where we're like, okay, we're going to just make a bunch of videos. It originally started out as like a bunch of exercise videos. And then as we started to learn and develop and learn new things, we started to transition more into like some educational things around like pain and communication. And we kind of went to more like graphic style as Will developed his like ability to make graphics, because he does all that stuff.
Yeah, looks pretty good. It's got kind of stuff going on there. I liked it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah, he's got skills. And then I would say as of recently, we've been a little bit slower in terms of content that we're putting out. Like we've been kind of busy with like working and some other things that we're trying to put together. Obviously the podcast, and I think really trying to find what we want to put out. The exercise videos are great, but I think we want to try to put out stuff that adds maybe a little more value or do a little combination of things. So I think we're kind of in a rethinking idea of like, how are we going to put out content that's good. So we've kind of slowed down a little bit in that sense. Would you agree, Will?
Yeah, I think we always want it to be authentic to just like what we are and what we're enjoying and kind of consuming. Cause like, you want your social media to be kind of an extension of you,
Exactly.
Like it's yours and it's in your control to decide what you want to put out, So there's no, like, we don't do any like market research and stuff and that kind of side of things, because we just want it to be what we like. That's why we're doing coffee and talking about physio.
Yeah.
And like strength and conditioning and that kind of thing, because I'm a power lifter. Dalton works at a gym, and we are new graduate physios, and we drink a lot of coffee, right? So we try to make the content just kind of be us. And when it's like drifting away from maybe that sort of thing, that's where we, I think, have to rethink and kind of figure out like, how are we going to make this better and like do a better job of kind of like putting the stuff out.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're doing a good job. I mean, from the podcast and, some of your content, I definitely feel like I've grasped, who y'all are and, what y'all are about. So,
cool.
Keep up with that.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So I don't think I kind of talked to y'all too much, but I created a mobile app called TheraED, and it's like a continuing education for PT. So it's kind of like Yelp for continuing education courses. So, the creators can put, all kind of multimedia on there to promote what course or event or product they're promoting. Users can, list, make comments and rate courses and things like that. So just a better way for us to understand what kind of courses and events that we're getting ourselves into. So with you being in Canada, is it any differences that y'all have noticed or talked about, of anyone has told y'all for as continuing education, with the APTA and for us, in Canada? Is there a difference? Is it not? I really don't know myself, so I would like to know.
In terms of how many continuing education courses
I guess
you have to take,
about how we go about it. Like, is there, like, I think here, the problem I see a lot of my classmates and coworkers, like, they go to the same courses, or the boss tells them where to go, or they just go because they heard this or they got something in the mail, but they really don't have like a place to like find somewhere that they want to go to, or like find a niche that they like and get courses on that or anything, nothing along those lines.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Will.
I think people do tend to take courses just because it's the thing that people are doing. I think people could, and it's something me and Dalton have tried to kind of like advocate for a little bit, is being a little more thoughtful about like what you take and why you're taking it, and not just like get into taking a million courses just because it's the thing people are doing.
Right.
So I would say that that's especially early on in people's careers, or while they're in school even. That seems to be sort of the way it is here. I don't know if that's kind of similar to the US of A, but
yeah, I have one of my mentors. He said, when he got out of school, he took 100 million hours of continuing education courses, and yeah, it benefited him. But like you said, it's kind of like you just trying to take so much stuff, and he didn't really hone in on like what he wanted to do. So I think that is kind of how it's going.
Yeah, I think the cool thing with what you're trying to do is create a platform in which there's open discourse over what courses are actually providing, and kind of maybe take because what tends to happen, I think, is like you get these little silos of like, oh yeah, like everyone's kind of advocating for people to take like one course because maybe they're involved with it, or they get some kickback from it, or there's some kind of thing like that, and you don't know if what you're truly going into. So I think having a space where you can have discourse about certain courses, like, hey, this was good, this wasn't good, and it's more open, and you let people comment and have those conversations on it, I think is important for people to maybe get like a true look. Because like any service that you're trying to consume, there's always people out there that are just trying to do it for the money, right? And maybe not necessarily doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
So like, I think that's really cool that you're trying to do that. And then what Will's saying about like, from our perspective, like I've just tried to see like what courses are actually going to add value to me and my practice, instead of just like jumping on like some of the courses that are pushed on us early on, like when we're in physio school, because that's just, again, maybe there's some relationship between like the school and that course, or those people that are teaching in that course. Like there's just different things that go on that you don't really know about sometimes. So yeah.
Now, have y'all noticed, being new out of school, any things that y'all have noticed, like, hey, I don't like this about continuing education, or like this needs to be changed, or this isn't a good way, a good mindset of thinking, or anything like that?
I think that's difficult for us to answer, because we've been very like critical about what we take. So I don't think I've taken anything that's like, first of all, haven't taken that many courses, but second of all, I don't think I've taken anything that hasn't been exactly what I wanted from it or what I expected.
Good.
But I could definitely see like how you would fall into that sort of trap, because there's so much out there. There's courses everywhere, but I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dalton?
Yeah, I agree. I think from my perspective, I think the thing that is unfortunate that happens is like when people are like preaching this like guru model of like, you need, like, I know the way that's going to get you out of pain, and this is exactly what you have to do. And like, do these 5 steps and you'll be good to go if you do this, and you'll have the ability to help and heal anybody. Like, unfortunately, that stuff still gets put out there, right? I think there's other people in the space like that are putting out good continuing education courses that are openly saying like, hey, we don't have all the answers. Like, this is an uncertain profession. Like, there's so many factors that go into it, but here's what we're going to talk about, and here's what we're going to learn about. And you almost go in there and kind of have like a converse. Like, they obviously are teaching content, but it's a very open platform for discussion on like either sides of the spectrum of the conversation. And I think that's the spot where like true learning happens. And some of the courses that I've taken, which again has been very few, but like we still have access to like updated research in these that they're putting, that the course people are putting onto like a Google Drive. Like, they're still like talking about things from the course. Like, you have access to other things that continue on. Exactly. And like, if there was something wrong, not wrong, but something at the time of the course that maybe that we once thought was the best way to approach it has changed, then they'll be like, well, it's changed, and here's like what you need to think about now. So it's like kind of that idea of you don't really have the answer. We're all just trying to be the most correct we can and kind of embrace the uncertainty of it.
I like that. Okay.
I think I have another comment, because that's what Dalton was talking about. I was kind of thinking like, I think where it becomes harmful is when people make, especially like new graduates, feel bad about not knowing everything. And so that they'll go to their courses because they've got all the answers. You know, like that's definitely kind of, like a problem that I've seen, is people that like claim that they kind of know it, and you're not working hard enough, or like you're not a good enough PT because you don't do it this way or something like that. It's not very that's not promoting the kind of critical thinking that we need.
Right.
Yeah, and it's hard, man. Like as a new grad, like you come out and it's like a whole new world, right? Like you learn what you learn in school, but like you step out and you're just like, it's just like, whoa, it's like, what do I do? You feel at times you're like, feel lost. You feel like, how do I approach this? Like, it's nice if you have good mentorship or people around you to ask questions, but sometimes, people don't necessarily have that opportunity, and they're just like, I need to grasp onto something. And I feel like that's why there's such like you see people jumping on all of these courses, because they feel like they need to just take in all of this information, and that it's going to eventually like give them something to hold on to help them in practice. When unfortunately, at least from what I've learned, is like, it's you're dealing with humans. Like, it's so difficult at times that you just have to embrace that, like embrace that uncertainty and just try to do the best you can with what you got. And then from there, decide like, what courses you want to take. Like for example, for me, like I've been practicing now for almost a year. Like one course that I know I'm going to take soon is like a concussion course, because you don't learn a lot in school about concussion. And I've been seeing quite a bit of people in my caseload with concussion. So like for me, I'm like, okay, I think it's a good idea for me to take some sort of concussion course to at least have a better framework or system of how to approach this. Like I'm doing my best, like learning on my own and like researching things on my own. But I think having more of a guide would help me help the people that I'm dealing with better. So I think like taking that approach of like, get out there, practice, see who you're dealing with, see where maybe you want more information. And then you go and say, okay, I'm going to take this concussion course, or I'm going to take this, exercise course, or I might take this like manual therapy course, etc.
Right. Yeah, you have to look at your target audience and who you're treating, and of course you want, find things that you like and things that you want to be a part of, but you have to also look at your population, who you're working with. Like you're saying, the concussion, like, hey, I would benefit from this because I see this often. So I think there is a podcast of PTs that like specialize in concussion. Are you familiar with that?
I'm sure there are. I haven't really looked too much into it, but yeah, I should definitely check out podcasts for.
I saw it not long ago, and I reached out to him to try to get him on, and I haven't got a response back. But I'm gonna have to look back into that. But yeah, that's definitely something. Yeah. So so Movement PTs, PT Coffee Cast. What's next for y'all? What are y'all working on? Anything that you can tell us now? Are you selling anything, marketing anything? I know we talked about the actual coffee and stuff earlier. So
right now I think we're not working on like anything new, I would say. I think we're just trying to figure out, again, we talked about the Instagram, like where we want to go with that, what kind of content we want to put out. I think we're still trying to feel that out. But right now I think we're just going to continue going on with like the podcast, trying to get on some more people, try to grow our audience, try to bring the best content we can from that perspective, because I think we really enjoy that platform the most, and having the conversations like this with other people. So I think we're really going to push that. Other than that, Will, do you got anything else? Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. No, just trying to like keep improving our podcast, I think, is the most, probably like the thing we're focusing on most. And getting some interesting guests. Like we're always down to like kind of branch out and do some different stuff, have some fun.
Yeah, well, the only thing we're really marketing is our coffee. So the original blend. If you want a bag, you can head over to our Instagram, link in the bio, check it out. It's a great cup of coffee.
All right, and tell us again, what's your hashtag or your link to
so you can you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at the MVMT PTs. You can reach out to us on any of those platforms. Instagram's probably the best. We're the most active there. For our podcast, head over to iTunes, subscribe. It's the PT Coffee Cast. If you've listened to an episode and you've enjoyed it, like, we'd love to get a review. We'd love to hear the feedback from people about what they like, what they don't like. Other than that, that's about all we got right now.
Okay. Well, you got a thumbs up from me, because the episodes I've heard, I'm like, all right, this is cool. This is cool.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that.
Y'all have anything else y'all wanna speak about, or anything like that? Anything on your mind?
I don't know. No, just, I mean, I like the conversation we had, and I think this is the course thing is something that me and Will talk about often, and kind of going through that process. Like, if there is any other students like out there, new grads that are just coming into practice, which is kind of, we're around that time right now, or at least in Canada, most students are graduating and starting to transition to being physical therapy residents. My thoughts, and again, like, people can do whatever they want, but my thoughts and my experience is like, just get out there and just start interacting with people, start getting comfortable with talking to people, start getting comfortable educating, start getting comfortable dealing with different scenarios. Like, sometimes it works smooth, sometimes it goes way south. Like, just kind of get grasps on that, and then start to think about maybe the courses or the things that you want to do that's going to add on to the people that you're seeing. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to run out and take all of these courses, because it can get overwhelming. It can get pricey. I know myself, I'm still trying to pay off these student loans. So.
Oh, me too, man. I think confidence is a big thing too. You know, you can take all the courses and do all the things, but I think you have to kind of develop confidence as a physical therapist, you know, and as a provider, and that kind of helps, you know, a lot. You know, like you said, you know, the more you talk to people, and I think, you know, you two probably gain a lot of confidence by speaking to so many different people and influencers, and I think that can help, you know, new grads as well. You know, anybody really. I mean, just gain your confidence. You got to stay open to learning things and things like that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I'm gonna let y'all go enjoy the rest of y'all day. I appreciate the time, and look forward to seeing everything else that y'all have in store.
Yeah, appreciate that, Caleb. We're looking forward to seeing the platform come out too.
Oh, I'll definitely let y'all know when we get the official release.
Sweet, man.
Thanks, Caleb.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Cheers, man.
All right.
All right, guys, that wraps up our episode on the TheraED PT podcast. Caleb, thanks for having us. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It just gives you a different look at us. It allows us to talk more about what we believe in, our mission, our values, and it's not just us continuing to ask questions all the time. So we hope you guys took some value away from it. If you did, please consider heading over to iTunes, subscribing, and leaving us a review. If you want to listen to any one of our other episodes, you can check it out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And lastly, if you want to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you. You can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at the MVMTPTs, and you can email us, themovementpts@gmail.com. That's all we got for you guys today. We hope you had a wonderful day. We love you. Peace.